So, like, answering frequently asked questions in your marketing is huge. Just
Yeah.
brainstorm all of them and start to answer them, like, on your website, in your email newsletter, in your social media. Because, yes, patients, I would say maybe it's 50-50 at this point. Some people are pretty nervous about needles, and then other people are like, "Yeah, I read about it on the internet. I'm sure it'll be fine." And you're
Yeah.
like, "Okay, thank God for the internet."
Yeah. It was
But
funny. I had this experience the other day with our son, and my wife and I were talking about something, and he had this perspective of our previous time we owned another business, and it was a lesson in marketing in the fact of he had filled in all the gaps that we thought we were protecting him from or we didn't want to share with him. He had filled all those gaps in with information from other sources like YouTube, friends, all this, and we're like, and that's not at all what happened. Like, what? And but I know that, clients do the same thing. Like I've heard so many of them give me opinions about what chiropractic's all about or what their options are. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No, that's not at all what the plan is. So I think that's
yeah.
such a great approach that you're saying.
Yeah, and I think it's really true that a lot of times when people have a gap, they fill it in with something negative automatically.
Yeah.
Like, our tendency is not to put something positive into that blank space.
Yeah.
Maybe the rare person will do that. And there's a big debate in acupuncture marketing. You and I both know Arlette, the business
Yes.
coach. Love her. So she is my business coach. And we often have this like mini discussion slash not really an argument about whether you should show needles in your marketing. And she works with a lot of aesthetics professionals. So those are bigger needles, right? Those are like Botox needles.
Yeah.
And she is firmly in the camp of do not show the needles in your marketing because do
Mhm.
potential patients really want to see that or is it too scary?
Sure.
And I am in the camp of show the potential patient exactly what to expect. And by showing them the needles and the whole process, you're eliminating a lot of fear because you're filling the information in that gap. So now they're like, "Oh wow, I just watched this person get 80 needles in their face in fast motion." And that person looked like they were napping the whole time. So before where they might have had that blank space with where they filled in with like these giant horrifying needles, they're like, "Oh, that
Mhm.
looks easy. I could do that." So I'm a big fan of one of the ways you can dispel fear in marketing is to show the treatment.
Yeah. I like it. Especially because I think people may have the idea that the needles the scale of what you're doing is much different than their typical usage of needles. Because needles play all the way from, your tiny little facial acupuncture needles. And then, if they had a loved one who had chemotherapy or something and had like a
Right.
PIC line or something, like, oh,
Yes.
I've seen needles. I know exactly what it is. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's
Yeah.
not at all what we're talking about. You know?
Right.
Yeah. I had a patient one time and I learned to ask the question, like, what's your understanding of this? Like when I would render their diagnosis. So I had this woman and she had like a 3 millimeter disc bulge at L45, which is like for any chiropractor, like this is bread and butter, normal, nothing to be concerned
Sounds
of.
scary.
It does. And what was interesting, I said, so what is your understanding of this? And she said, ugh, I guess it means I'm going to need surgery on my back and probably another surgery 3 or 4 years later. And I was like, what? Why do you think that? And she's like, well, my sister's a nurse and then she named a local spine surgeon.
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
And, and turns out her sister's her best friend. They spend all this time together. And so her sister only told her stories about people in the worst possible position of back pain, right?
Yeah.
So she thought it was a light switch. Back pain,
Uh,
surgery. And I was like, whoa, there's so much time between here and there. There's so many options between here and there. And I probably spent 6 months educating her and getting her out, and to the point where we'd transition everybody from the clinic to our gym. And I remember she was lifting a kettlebell that was equal to her body weight. She weighed about 120 pounds. And
wow.
Carolyn, it's not her real name for all those HIPAA nerds out there, but her name's not Carolyn. But I was like, Carolyn, do you still think you need surgery? And she like was standing there holding the kettlebell up. Like she was like looking off in the distance while holding 120 pounds.
Thinking
And she
about
just
it.
had deadlifted. And she's like, I, I guess not. I guess not. I'm like, really? That chunk of cast iron in your hand is not telling you absolutely do not need it? But that was with a successful case, like,
Yeah.
and a willing participant. So
Mm.
I think that's great. Michelle, if you were advising through your knowledge of educating and helping people market, where do you think the biggest gap that you see just generally across all wellness providers? So I'm talking
Mm.
acupuncture, PT, chiro, I'll even put aesthetics, med spas in there, just all those allied health, non-hospital kind of professions. You must just see it all the time in every ad you get served, right? Every advertisement on Facebook, you must be like, oh, why aren't they doing this? What do you think it is?
Gosh, I would say not identifying your target market and your ideal patient. And sometimes I'll see ads that are incredibly generic. They're just like acupuncture for pain or chiropractic for back pain even is maybe not specific enough.
Yeah.
But I think that especially if you're going to pay for advertising, you really want to dial into your ideal person and try to speak to them in the ad. There's a saying in marketing that if you're trying to speak to everyone, you are actually speaking to no one, right? If it doesn't ring a bell with any specific person, it's just going over everybody's head because they don't feel like it applies to them. They're like, well, I don't know if they mean me. Like it generates too many questions instead of you just being the answer. So I think that is an important step that gets skipped all the time because it's really not sexy, right? Like,
thanks for tuning in to this episode of Trust Driven Insights, brought to you by TrustDrivenCare. Imagine a world where all your patient communication is in one place, seamless, effortless, and on autopilot. That's the power of Trust-Driven Care. If you're ready to streamline your practice, check out TrustDrivenCare.com and see what's possible. Trust-Driven Insights. Real conversations. Smarter care. Stronger business.